All right, and I'll kick it off to Ken.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here on a dreary Friday afternoon. Um, just want to get things started here. Today's webinar by Bruce Siegel is LinkedIn at Maturity. And feel free to use the chat box to ask questions. And I anticipate that Bruce is not going to use the entire hour, so we'll also be able to do questions at the end. Um, in terms of the let's see, at the end of the session, please follow directions that will be sent the evaluation email for the online attendance certificate. Fill out the evaluation, whether or not you're applying for CE credits or not. A certificate for financial neutrals and mental health professionals will be included in the evaluation confirmation. If you've called in, please send an email to the office with the phone number you're using so your attendance can be verified. For attending attorneys, the first code of today's CLE is marketing. And actually, I see mental health professionals and financial neutrals, and I see Kristen as the attorney in addition to me and Ellen and Melissa. And I don't see everyone that's attending. So, and Michelle is an attorney as well. So again, marketing. Um, Bruce Siegel has actually been involved with our organization going back at least more than 10 years, possibly 15. And he is the president of Marketing Sense for Business LLC since 2010. After 25 years spent inside large financial services companies, Citibank and MasterCard, and smaller firms, Bruce is a specialist on LinkedIn. He's worked with 250 clients and 75 professional organizations to develop improved profiles, build visibility, and rekindle and establish relationships via LinkedIn. He holds a bachelor's from Yale and an MBA from Stanford and lives in Dobbs Ferry, New York. He's one of those people that you see out riding their bikes and you worry about because they're going to get hit by a car or fall or something. And he does most of his bike riding in New York and Connecticut. So, Bruce, thank you for the things you've done for us previously and helping out members of the organization. And thank you for doing this program today.
Well, thank you, Ken. It's good to see some familiar faces and some new faces as well. And happy to help you guys out. Always happy to reconnect with you. I wanted to start by saying that LinkedIn is ubiquitous for anyone who wants to do business with other business professionals. It is really the place where people go online to connect professionally. So there are alternatives, but none of them has really holds a candle to LinkedIn, and so you need to address it one way or another. I wanted to just start by kind of getting a sense of the group, and of four choices. You can maybe write your responses in the chat. Are you on LinkedIn, like me, all the time? That would be one choice, or every day, at least once a day, or once a week, or never. So, Ken?
I'm in probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay, two or three times a week. We have a once a week here. So not that often. Um, okay. Never post. Yeah, I noticed that. Someone that never posts. All right, very
Michelle,
good. Thank
right.
you. So that gives me a sense.
All right.
All right, well, I'm
Jay,
gonna.
Kelly, and Bob
Oh,
never.
interesting. The two or 3 days a week, people. So I'm gonna share my screen and move it into slide mode. Okay, and I'm going to go into slideshow mode. There we go. Okay. And so this is what we're going to cover. I developed this thinking that some of the people would be like Ken and Melissa that have a fair amount of experience on LinkedIn. I see from looking at the profiles that some of you are much less experienced. So apologize that it's not a beginner presentation, but I'm always happy, to talk. Beginners are really kind of my specialty, so I'm always happy to pivot and gear some remarks to beginners as well. We'll try to cover, kind of both angles. So what we're going to do is talk about LinkedIn, but in the sense of what has changed. So since it's been quite a while since I've presented to your entire group, a lot has changed, and I think it's important to be aware of that, whether you're either new to LinkedIn or very experienced. And then LinkedIn has made some very interesting responses to that. And we'll go through that. I think just talking briefly beforehand, I don't think, everyone's aware of these. And then, sort of where do you go from here? So whether you're new or experienced, I think you have some strategic choices, and I think it's a little harder. For example, than what it was, Melissa, when I came to your office, I think it was in Katona, probably about 7 years ago. I mean, it was just kind of like more of an open, world for LinkedIn. And now even I face some difficult choices. And then, for everyone, but particularly for many of you who are new, don't forget before you jump in, don't forget the foundation, which is really something I love, which is the LinkedIn profiles. And that's always a really good thing, especially now to refocus on. And then ending with some practical strategies for 2026. So I'm happy to take questions at the end, but I'm also happy to take questions during the presentation. So I guess, Sarah, if you can just look I can't see the chat right now, but particularly if something seems like it should be addressed right now, if one of you can
Yeah,
look at the chat
we'll let you
and
know,
then,
Bruce.
yeah, let me know, and I'm happy to take interruptions if it seems, okay, open there. Okay, here we go. So what has changed? Okay, well, just to give you a sense of the volume, I mean, LinkedIn doesn't um, present specific statistics on this, but we know that it's gone from tens of millions of messages a day. These are the things that come into your LinkedIn inbox, and we can go on LinkedIn in a minute and just sort of see so I can explain some of that to 100 million. So it's just really remarkable. That's messages, but every single view that you could look on activity, whether it's impressions, the number of videos that are posted on LinkedIn, the number of people that are active. I mean, the statistics have just really exploded, particularly spurred by the pandemic. So what happened, people, rather than being out meeting people in person, all of a sudden they were home sitting on their computers. And guess what? They went on LinkedIn. So, as I said, in every measure, you're just seeing more and more clutter. And then one other thing that's really interesting is that LinkedIn forced the intersection of work and personal in a way. If when I first encountered you folks, I would have said, no, keep LinkedIn um, professional. And now you see a lot of personal um, posting. I am a fan, and a lot of people sort of post at the intersection of work and personal. So what I have below is a woman who's a mediator and collaborative divorce attorney in New Jersey talking about working from home with her small child in the background. Um, what we saw is that some senior executives were briefly on the platform, and now they have kind of absented themselves again. I don't know if how that would affect because your business is really more around connecting with the end user and with other professionals, but it's worth mentioning that. And then what we're seeing is that the engagement that as a result of all of this, and probably some things that LinkedIn is doing internally, the what's called organic reach, which is a way of saying posts that you do on your own without paying someone or something to boost the post for you, all the engagement is going down on those. And then, so that would be what you said before the meeting started, the actual impressions. Everyone, from the biggest novice out to the most experienced and most frequent presenter is seeing their impressions, their likes, even the likes to some extent going down. And so what what part of what I'm going to be talking about in this hour is shifting from a focus on just getting your name out there and visibility and how many people did you reach to more engagement and how you engage with people, not just with your posts, but also other ways such as commenting and messaging. Needless to say, AI has had a huge impact. So many comments are now AI generated, uh, perhaps somewhere between a quarter and a half is what I've read. I thought it would have personally been higher. Uh, and so you're seeing with AI generated comments, I don't know, does anyone get a sense when they see an AI generated comment? I don't know if you see that. It just sounds very kind of plasticky. And unfortunately, LinkedIn facilitated some of this. So when you post now, you can um, rewrite with AI, or even, of course, go into your chat and just say, I want to do a post on, whatever, and it'll come up with a draft for you. So on the one side, LinkedIn AI has had a negative, well, I think a negative impact. But then on the other side, about 4 months ago, LinkedIn introduced something called 360 Brew. So this is a new way to evaluate the impact of your posts that LinkedIn is doing behind the scenes. It was probably something they should have been doing all along. And so rather than, I don't know if what you've been involved in, Ken, there are a lot of, and Melissa, we talked about this a little bit, is there were some kind of tricks that you would do with LinkedIn using emojis or creating like a dot, 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 and then putting one sentence on each line and posting certain times of the day and something called groups of people who get together and agree to comment on each other's posts. And I put those, call them sort of engagement tricks, and that's being replaced in that apparently LinkedIn is purporting to read your comment as a human would. Um, and then make an evaluation as to whether this is a substantive, well-written comment, whether it fits with your focus area in life, which is collaborative law or mental health or finance. And then based on that, how much it's going to put forward the comment and present it on the LinkedIn feed. Um, I don't know if you guys know, but not every time you post does it. If I have 100 connections, when I initially post, it will only be presented to a small percentage of them, let's just say 10. And based on the initial response, LinkedIn will decide whether to present it to more people. So it's not like an automatic thing, but the mechanism by which they are deciding to to post to more people is changing, and how they look on your posts just in general. And then this feeds back into the profile as well. Um, so 360 Brew is very interesting. It actually was kind of some kind of internal focus group that LinkedIn, or maybe a focus group of users that LinkedIn put together that they called 360 Brew. So that's how this very odd name for an algorithm, but that's how it came. And so what do you really need to do here is really think about your strategy from a more strategic standpoint. Are you being consistent? Do you have a series of one, two, or three areas that you're posting in? We'll talk about commenting later, but are you regularly commenting on people's posts? Is it authentic? Are you focused on your prospects, your partners, your clients? And then kind of using AI as support. So with here, I realize this is probably, a lot for those of you that are new to LinkedIn. would it be helpful if I just went into LinkedIn right now and just kind of did an overview of, just sort of the basics of what LinkedIn is? Or should I keep on going? Anyone have a sense of that?
Um, I think it would probably be a good thing at this point, just for the people who,
Who are new?
are newer or don't have a higher level of confidence on
Yeah, we can just jump into LinkedIn
it.
and I can answer some questions. Sorry, it does require that I shift the screen around. Okay, good. Okay. So this is your LinkedIn homepage, and this is where you start a post, basically. So it starts from here, and then when you start the post, then it will give you more options for different ways to post. So that's a very important thing. Then you would go here to view your profile and make some additions to your profile. Many of you have this space blank up above your photo, and so that's kind of a waste. But we'll get into the profile more in a minute. And then when I speak about the homepage feed, it's this area down the center, which is a combination of people that have actually posted, like this guy, Andrew Dykman, and then things that are ads. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, right here. Takeda is not a company that I follow. Um, and so it must, yeah, promoted right there indicates that it's promoted. There are both people. The main thing in LinkedIn is these other connections like Jonathan and Andrew, but then there are also companies, your firms have profiles on LinkedIn, and that's what you're seeing over here. Are there any basic questions before, just sort of how to navigate around before I go back to the presentation?
I have a question. When I
Yes.
go, do you need to have like an enhanced membership for the AI? Because when I go on my LinkedIn, when I go on to post it, it doesn't give me the option of doing that AI.
Okay. Okay. What I thought that you didn't anymore, but maybe I'm wrong. But you can certainly take your post. Do you use one of the AI, the LLM engines like ChatGPT for your other
No.
work?
Not, I mean, not re no.
Just in passing. Yeah, so you can go to those and they will, what I do is I get a pretty good draft
Yeah.
and then I take it and I send it into the Chat GPT and then it makes suggestions. So since I have a premium, I pay for
Oh,
Chat GPT. It
oh,
knows my style, so it knows that I don't like to be overly salesy. I like to keep things kind of low key and dignified. So when it responds, it will say, this is consistent with or you can make this change and still be in your low key, kind of professional LinkedIn voice, which you like to maintain.
okay.
So in
So
a
it's
way,
not,
I don't
yes.
even use the rewrite with AI anymore.
Oh, okay. So it's not integrated in the platform. Like when I'm posting, it doesn't give me
No.
the,
Yeah,
let's,
I don't know why it's not there, but I have this thing rewrite
yeah.
with AI. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah, I do. I don't have that on mine. So yeah, that.
Yeah. All right. I guess I thought it was for everyone, but I
Oh,
guess
How
maybe.
much,
not. Yeah, I
how
don't know
much
what
is a
what's
premium?
happening. Mine's not coming up. So I don't know. Maybe they disabled it. Bob, you raised your hand?
Yeah, thanks. This is a very naive question. I mean, I got onto LinkedIn, I guess, when it first came out, but I don't really use it. Would you say that LinkedIn is similar to Facebook except for professionals? Is it?
I think that's a very, that's a good characterization. It used to be more different. And I think the platforms have merged in the last 5 to 10 years.
Thank you.
But I would say that now more and more people are off Facebook. So when I go on Facebook, I actually see very few people. It's just like, maybe 5% of my universe is posting there. And so I find it because the younger people are not going on Facebook. A lot of people have just dropped off for various reasons. Here, I see a variety of people that I know well, some people that are personal friends and family, along with, people like Andrew, who is a more, what I'd call sort of like a second or third circle, is someone that, I like and Jonathan I like, but I wouldn't, quote, see them if it weren't for LinkedIn. So you're definitely getting to a broader, kind of swath of people than I think you get with it at Facebook right now. Melissa.
Yeah, so is there a benefit of doing like a premium membership versus a regular membership?
hmm Yeah, I have a slide on that later.
Okay.
But the short answer is if you want to, excuse me, if you want to invite people and then you want to, excuse me, I don't know what happened. You want to personalize those invites,
Mhm.
then you have to have the premium membership.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember from when we worked together, I was encouraging you when you invite people to just do a personal
Yeah.
invitation, say it was great to meet you. If you want to do that easily, then you have to bump up to premium. But we'll go through that
Mhm.
later.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else before I jump back? Are we good?
Bruce, I have a question. This is Jay Moto. I leverage AI in a lot of different areas. We do a lot of social media. I use LinkedIn predominantly B2B. But the
Right.
question I have for you is with this 360 brew, historically, social media and Google did not like AI generated content or use of AI. They wanted more human content.
Right.
So given, AI becoming more relevant in our day to day, and utilizing it here and even LinkedIn suggesting to use AI, if you leverage AI, in LinkedIn particularly, do you feel that that has an impact on the algorithm?
Mm.
Well, I think that if you're really writing in an AI voice, it will absolutely impact the algorithm negatively for you. What I was suggesting is that and what most experts suggest is that you use AI as like an assistant. So you
Right.
really gather your thoughts in an authentic voice that's you, and then you maybe show it to AI and, and I look at my draft versus the AI draft on two screens and I decide what I want to integrate. So
Right.
I'm really only taking, sort of between 10 and 40% of what it recommends. And it almost never tells me to scrap it. It's always
Right.
in, it's really like a refinement. And
And
then you'll be okay.
are you going to discuss utilizing AI to engage and create connections, or is that not part of this presentation?
Um, yes, I can discuss that. It's not something that I really recommend because I think that really in my view, it really defeats the whole purpose of LinkedIn, which is to establish, genuine connections. But many people do use those kinds of automation tools and do use them effectively to build their network. So there's different, points of view about that. There's also a concern with they're called browser extensions. And so if LinkedIn sees that you're using a browser extension, it can actually penalize you and even suspend or close your account.
Can you just elaborate on that, please? The browser extension?
Well, these services come, the first thing when you sign up is they'll say, please download this browser extension to your Google Chrome, and that enables the service to work. And browser extensions are not allowed in LinkedIn. And so then if LinkedIn sees that, they could penalize you.
Hmm.
So many people do use them effectively, but there's a risk.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks for all these great questions. Very interesting. Okay, so then, so where do you go from here? And those of you that are relatively dormant, you can stay dormant. Maybe log on occasionally, no pain, no gain. And you're really going to be losing out on all this activity from your connections. And with such limited way to stay in touch with a large number of people, you're going to kind of lose out. Although I certainly understand, where you are. Then there's kind of like the second one, which I call a drip, which is a concerted effort, to post occasionally, engage with others, more regularly. And there you can build awareness among your extended network, nurture your contacts. So there will be some, benefit. The third strategy is driven, but you're doing it yourself. So without anyone, to really assist you. So you have a regular campaign of posting, messaging, commenting. So it's very important these days to not just post, but also to comment and message to people. And that is more likely to yield new awareness and engagement and leads. And then the fourth strategy is you're driven, but you're also delegating a portion of this. So you might have an automation service that you just mentioned, uh, Jay, or you might have a virtual assistant who's assisting you. So you're doing a lot of the same things, but somehow something or someone in the background is assisting you. So this could be, a person, or it could be some kind of third party service. So there, you're reducing your time, but you need to continually evaluate, investment. You could also in this category pay to boost your posts, and that would be, again, a way to spend more money and then put yourself forward. I'd say with the level of there's no real guarantee of success um, with any of these. So that's unfortunately a reality, today. But Ken, I wanted to just stop, and I know you do something that I would put into the more delegated and driven, because you're part of a service that's in effect, facilitating some of the activity for you. So do you want to like speak to that as an example?
Yeah, and before I do that, the second code for today's program is LinkedIn.
Okay, there you go.
LinkedIn. So marketing and LinkedIn. Well, Bruce, as I mentioned before we got onto the group, I do videos through Video Socials, and I post my video. We have a YouTube page, and I post videos on LinkedIn. That's really my place. And um, what I've seen over the course of the last few years is where a year ago I would have received dozens or possibly a few hundred impressions on a video that I posted. That number has dropped a bit. So I was just curious as to number one, is there something I can do? I did boost a video recently and it got up into the thousands,
Okay.
versus maybe a few hundred. So just curious as to, what we can be doing most effectively to promote our firms or our practices, and what, if
Okay.
anything, is going on with um, the LinkedIn system in general.
Right. Well, as I said, you're not alone in seeing your impressions go down. I think what I would encourage you to do is really more of a mindset shift. So I get into the same thing of just, well, how many impressions do I have? And I think I had a client that had 150,000 impressions and last summer, and that was amazing for a single post, but it's really more about engagement. So the question is of those, whether it's 100 if you have 100, 200 impressions from a non-boosted post, but you're getting 11 comments, versus 1,000 impressions and 8 comments, I think that really the engagement is really what's more important. And then what you do with the engagement, to actually comment back or follow up with people, that's what I think LinkedIn and I are trying to get us to sort of shift. And I know it's hard because, it's a nice ego boost to see that, you got 1,000 impressions or that my
Yeah,
client got
a lot of fun.
150,000 impressions.
Yeah, no, it's it definitely ego boost, and but it's also interesting to see the reaction, and it's also nice to have this venue to establish um, or be recognized for putting something like the videos out there, and just so people know. Um, I have had clients say to me that they watched one or more of my videos. I did a video on how to divorce a narcissist, and I was getting calls from all over Brooklyn, upstate, Orange County, and actually cases, I have succeeded in getting cases as a result of the videos. And recently, I just met with a client this morning on a possible collaborative case, and he said that ChatGPT referred him to me.
Oh, great.
And so I think because of the videos, um, ChatGPT, I guess, is scouring data constantly and must have picked up on my videos. So it's just sort of fascinating to see how people
Yeah.
get to you.
And it's fascinating, to from a distance sort of watch because this strategy has worked for you over the years, but it's not the classic sort of LinkedIn trainer consultant strategy because we would encourage you to mix up the types of posts that you're doing. So if you had a great post on narcissists, then do a word post on that. Take some of that and put it into words and try that, or links to when you're speaking about that, or images, or just different. And I'll get into that if I have time at the end with different options for posting. But you've had some success, and I think that the discipline of being part of this service has allowed you to post regularly. So,
Right,
versus if you
right,
did that on your own, it might be, more difficult.
right. And
So Ken,
I would also mirror Melissa's question, is there a benefit in that regard to becoming a premium member of
it won't
LinkedIn?
necessarily get you more uh, views on your posts, but it might get you when people go to your profile, and we'll go through this at the end. It might get you some more uh, kind of vanity benefits of your profile. If you notice on my profile, I have a rotating banner that's only available to premium people. And then I can display my services. I can display certain buttons that direct people to my website or to contact me. So there are, certain benefits. So, I think we could talk offline about what you're spending now for the video socials and whether that would be better redirected to other kinds of, investments on LinkedIn.
Right.
So, anyone else care to
Thank you.
offer, sort of where they are with LinkedIn? Are they dormant, drip, dedicated? Is this moving them in a different direction? Anyone have any comments at this point? Teresa?
I'm definitely a drip,
Okay.
and this is giving me more information about how not to be a drip.
How to move down
Yeah.
is okay, interesting. Well, I'd love to hear how that journey goes for you because, it's a tough time to then move down. There's a lot of us trying to move down, become more
Well, and
active.
Bruce, I would just say, um, Jay just sent me a connection. I just connected with Jay, and it automatically popped up one for Leslie. So I just connected with Leslie.
Okay.
And, what does that do for us?
This is Ken asking, right?
Correct.
Well, it's increasing your network. So now Jay will see your posts.
And
So, I
Leslie.
mean, but
Right.
just that in itself is not Um, you know, I mean, that's not going to do that much for you, but it's just increasing your network. It's also for those of you, and most of you had pretty big networks, but there probably were a few of you that had like 67 connections or something like that. And then when you add connections, it's giving LinkedIn more data and it's making the algorithm smarter about who you are. And so then they can more tailor things, for you.
Bruce, I have a question for you. So the one challenge I have on LinkedIn is that I built and established a pretty good presence personally. Originally, I used to do a lot of marketing under my own name, but now I have my firm that I'm trying to
Sure.
build a brand. So I have thousands of connections on LinkedIn, um, and kind of built an authority in the past, but now I'm trying to build my company profile. So, do you have any suggestions on how I can leverage my personal profile
Yeah.
to establish my firm's profile?
Yes, if we have time at the end, I'll show you how to do that because there's an easy way to invite your connections to follow your company. So in other words, right now you have a certain number of followers of your company's profile, which is probably low.
Very low. Yep.
But there's a very easy way to invite people. And so if we don't have time to cover it in this session, I'm happy to just, spend 5 minutes with you at another point and show you how to do that. And then we're going to be covering later, sort of some of the changes with company profiles and how to, leverage that and so forth. So you're definitely, thinking in the right direction. But I would I would say that still the primary benefit and focus on LinkedIn is still on individual professionals doing business with other individual professionals, not on the companies. So
Interesting.
kind of a long answer to your question. I wish it was a simple answer, but okay. So then, like once you're thinking about your strategy, don't forget to think about your profile. And this is something, you should be doing periodically, thinking about your different key sections. And the three most important things are your professional headline or little elevator speech at the top, your about section, which is your summary about yourself. And well, those are probably the two most important. Most of you have a photo. If you don't, you certainly should have a photo. Um, and so this is just a checklist for you to make sure that you're looking at these things, at least once a year or at least, with some regularity. What's different with the new 360 brew is you want to make sure you want to identify what areas do you want to post in, and then make sure that you have keywords or verbiage in your profile that matches that. So from what I'm told, the 360 brew algorithm will be looking and making sure there's consistency. So if you're working with a 10-year-old profile, then it's not going, to do that. It's not, you're not going to be matching. Or if your profile is just very blank and doesn't have an about, doesn't give anything linked to work on, then the algorithm also is not going to be working properly. There's also something in the technical called profile verification. So that's something that LinkedIn has instituted in the last year or two, where it gives you a little check mark by your profile. And that's something that it's a little routine that you have to go through. It can either be very easy or very hard. And right now there's 1.3 billion people on LinkedIn,
Oh my God.
and 100 million have profile verification. So it's less than 1 in 10. So it's not quite at like a must have, but it may cross that tipping point sometime in the next year or two. So, that's something to keep in mind. And again, as I said, it can be very easy or hard. I think I'm going to stop now, jump on LinkedIn and talk about the featured section, talk about the professional headline for those of you, that don't have it. Um, okay, so I'm actually going to do that if that's okay. Okay, so we're going to go to my profile just to illustrate some of these things. So this is the banner that goes above your profile picture. So that enables it, because a lot of times people, I don't know, that 60 to 70% of the time, people will be looking at LinkedIn on a phone. And so they're not going to have the time or the sort of the mind space to read. And so they're looking at visual images. So that's why it's important. Anything with visual and anything that you can do in a very condensed way is very important in LinkedIn. And so what I'm talking about with a professional headline, there's my check mark. What I'm talking about with the professional headline is this little, um, it can either be a sentence or a phrase, or a series of phrases right below your profile that kind of telegraphs what you're about. Now, what's very important now with 360, well, with LinkedIn in general, and with 360 Brew is the first 60 characters of your professional headline. So that would be roughly the first 7 words. I know this gets like very technical and might not be intuitive, for attorneys who want to express themselves in, sort of full paragraphs and thoughts, but that is the way that this works. So this next analytics is not only available to you, here's the about. And so I've tried to structure mine in a very, intriguing way with a question, with short paragraphs, with these little check marks so that people go through it, quickly. Make sure you have top skills associated with your about and your current position, because on a phone, or what you saw before, that's going to show, because you have to get people to click on the see more, or else, and what's going to show initially is just these top skills. Services is just for premium people. Okay, so I wanted to spend a minute on the featured section. So the featured section is an additional area where you can put different visuals. So you can feature posts, you can do links to, for example, when I was honored a year or so back, you could do videos here, different posts. Let's see what I've got here. So it's a way to showcase yourself visually, which again might not really be intuitive for people that are, attorneys. But here I put a picture of myself presenting. So anyway, and then there's space to put your volunteer activities. Um, and which I have, which I encourage you to do, sort of builds out the picture. So this profile is not like a resume. It's both mostly professional, but also a little bit personal. I saw someone went to Yale for graduate school. That was one of the things I picked up. Um, and yeah, international relations degree. So LinkedIn enables you to evaluate, to identify sort of shared commonalities with people. So I know I've thrown a lot at you. Any questions about the profile? But it's just something tangible that you can do, that you should be looking at every year or so.
How much do you charge to assist us in doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I can, there's sort of like an I do and you do. If I do it all, it's 4.95. But if I just sort of assist you in doing it and you do the work, it'll be significantly less. And so that would be more consulting and guiding you, kind of one-on-one. There's someone who had a very nice one sentence professional headline. I wanted to just compliment you, but anyway, but doing the professional headline is something, someone just had a really nice phrase about how they, work with clients and what their approach is. So, it's not, necessarily that difficult. Jay, you have another question?
Yes. So, the way I look at anything online is a holistic approach. So, how can we, or what tips do you have via LinkedIn to help in overall search or online relevancy. Because if you Google my name, for an example, a lot comes up, my LinkedIn profile, etc. But are there ways to utilize or leverage LinkedIn with terms or services that will be relevant in online searches in other areas?
Yes, the way to do that is through something called a newsletter, which is essentially doing a blog through LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be weekly, it doesn't even have to be monthly, but that will get you sort of found outside of LinkedIn. Unfortunately, a lot of the posts and things that I do to promote themselves, they're within LinkedIn. So, but I think it's the newsletter is what's gotten, or it's an e-newsletter. It's a LinkedIn e-newsletter, but it is searchable outside of LinkedIn. And that's, what myself and the other experts have been kind of focusing in on right now.
But nothing in the profile itself will assist with online relevancy.
Well, within LinkedIn, but not really, no, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I mean, there's tremendous searching happening within LinkedIn so that if you're an expert, for example, in RMD distributions, then you would want to make sure that RMD distributions is in your professional headline so that when people are searching that on LinkedIn, that you'll be found. But I can't really guarantee that it'll get you outside of LinkedIn.
Gotcha.
And of course, you know that the whole search thing now is completely changing because of AI. I think you
Right.
know that. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that's like a whole nother thing. So it's just a lot to keep track of when you're trying to run your business here. Okay.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's why people like Ken have, outsourced pieces of it. So anyway, why is not going? Sometimes, oh, here, you're still not seeing the full screen, right?
No.
Correct.
Yeah, I think something happened because I went back well, can you see the slides?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's just, push forward rather than not taking your time. So this is yeah, I talked about this. This is just an example of a professional headline. We don't need to spend any time on this. Okay. All right. So then we get into the practical strategies, which is why uh, I mentioned the newsletter is one. And so I think the hardest thing for me in this new 360 Brew algorithm world is making commenting a disciplined practice.
Mm.
And as I say here, it may be just as important, the quality of your comments, as posting. It's like for me, it's
Oh,
a whole mindset shift because well, and I'll show this at the end, I have a whole spreadsheet for my posts, what I'm thinking about, what's been done, how it did, what kind of post is it, and I feel like even if the post doesn't do well, I feel like I've made progress and I can like check something off my list. Yes, I posted, this week. Good, pat on the back. But commenting is just very like more amorphous. And so I do have a a way that I can bring up my 20 favorite people on LinkedIn once a week and comment on that. But other than that, I haven't really, sort of cracked the code and spending for me to do a really thoughtful comment on something, not just I mean, even more than just sounds great. I mean, to really form my thoughts, it would take me 5 or 10 minutes, and I just have difficulty, devoting 5 or 10 minutes to really like coming up with a detailed comment.
mm.
So I'd love, you can calendar it, 15 minutes a day. Beware not to AI generate them because, the system's getting smarter. So at this point, I'm happy to open if anyone has any, suggestions, for how to deal with this strategy. I think it's a challenge, and I think it'll be a challenge for many people on LinkedIn.
Mm.
We talked about this is the automation and amplification tools um, uh, that it was in part designed to penalize automation. That's what we've been told. LinkedIn doesn't tell us exactly, but that's what I've been reading. Okay, so then is just to be aware of, I know that NYACP had a pod. This is not the NYACP pod. These are groups of people that explicitly exist in order to comment on each other's posts right away. So I don't know if anyone's heard of these, but typically what happens is the comments are AI generated or things like just, great post, and that, based on everything that I say, is not going to really advance you in this new LinkedIn world. So newsletters, which Jay talked about a minute. So the reason why we talked about the fact that they're searchable and we'll give you a link that you can then appears not just within LinkedIn, but outside LinkedIn, but also when you have subscribers, um, that they will receive an email notification in many cases that you've just published a newsletter. So that helps you break through the clutter. And you don't have to worry about posting every week or even every month. Some people post less frequently. So Jay, when you talked about building your company base, another way to think about growth, if you decide to do this, is to build your subscriber base. Because if you can get people to subscribe, then they will then get these, in many cases, these emails. We talked about the firm page. Some of you do not have a firm page. So I should have shown this, and I'll try to show it at the end, but next to your position, it goes, it's just like a blank space rather than a logo. And then they're getting more functionality with LinkedIn. A company page you can now message someone as a company, publish newsletters. The impressions are improving. I work for, in my other life as a consultant, I work for help run a small nonprofit in the legal education space in Westchester County, and we're seeing our post impressions improving on company post. There is a premium option here, but it's probably a little beyond where most of you are right now. And to maintain some agility, just because you've done something for 7 years doesn't mean that it's necessarily the right thing going forward, and having realistic expectations. So to think that you're going to get a steady stream of referrals may not be that realistic. Though I hear stories of people who are doing that, but I just don't know how realistic that is. Jay, you had a question?
Yes. So, and forgive me, but what is your opinion on, so we use different tools to universally post on Instagram, LinkedIn, Google, etc. So like I'll use a common one, Buffer, right?
Right.
These tools, you're not necessarily posting individually, but I've heard that that also impacts the algorithm when you're not individually posting, but relying on a third party resource to
Okay.
make post on your behalf.
Right. I actually, at one point they were saying that they do not penalize, but I think that what I would just say to you is sort of test and learn, so that each person is going to perform a little differently. I schedule my posts through LinkedIn, but I don't, not through a third party, but there's different points of view about that. So
Thank
just
you.
test it and learn it, and make sure that your post is written for LinkedIn based on everything that I've told you. If it's the same post for Instagram and Facebook, then you might get penalized or only very slightly tweaked. So that's where the human intervention, kind of comes in. So I wanted, because I got a couple of questions on the LinkedIn for Business, well, which is really the premium option. So I wanted to go through the benefits of that, and the main benefit is to personalize, the invites. Otherwise, you're limited to 3 a month. some of you who are, don't have a large connection network, if you decide to build it up, you may, want to invest in this feature. There are ways around it. For example, if you had an email list of NYACP members, you could, invite Jay and then send him an email saying, I just invited you, look forward to connecting. But, it's not that, it's definitely a huge benefit when LinkedIn took that away from the main free people. So I don't know how much searching you're going to be doing and prospecting, but it is unlimited with premium. You get to uh, reach out to people that are not connections that you wouldn't normally be able to send a message to. 15 a month. You can custom. There are certain profile features that you have that you wouldn't have as a regular member. Certain features get given to you first. And even now, the AI, Rewrite with AI, may only be available to premium people. And then just certain ancillary, perks, which I don't really use. So, and then at the very end, I have a sort of like a how-to on posting, which we don't need to go through, sort of page by page, but just so you see where the link, how it works, graphically, and then 9 different things to consider. So then, I consider rewriting with AI, part of the finishing touch, not the beginning. Um, Hashtags are on the way out with LinkedIn. So it's something, Jay, if you're using like a buffer kind of thing, just be aware of some of the differences between the platforms because like Instagram, you should have a lot of hashtags, but if you have like 7 hashtags on your LinkedIn post, I hear that you'll be penalized for that. So it's just a lot to consider and then monitor and adjust. And then the last thing is I showed a screenshot of how I kind of monitor. No, it's just how I develop and monitor posts, come up with ideas, see how it's doing with the green bar that it's been, just fit it, how did it do? And then it's also a place because it's a spreadsheet where I can just, dump ideas for future posts and future months. So I find it a good tool. And that can be set up as a share sheet, obviously. So, all right. Well, it's 12:59 and I've talked a lot. And I'm happy to take any more questions.
Are
I just
there
have
questions?
not a question,
Melissa.
just a comment. I think just Bruce is excellent. He's really helped me with my LinkedIn page. I'm probably going to call him again to help, but he's just been really a great support. And it's really been, I think your services are great. So I just want to.
Well, thank you. And you've been
Good to
you've
know.
been a great you've been a great client. So always happy to have you back.
Yeah, and they're good friends of the organization. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And just listening to you gives me greater confidence. I was on my LinkedIn page, updating my profile from 35
Okay.
years in practice to over 40 years in practice. And it's
Yay.
funny how quickly things get stale.
Yeah. Yeah. But think about it, also more holistically and like what's the story that you want to tell there? What's the first thing that you want people to see,
Right.
when before that more button is clicked, so
Right.
it's a process. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank
all
you
right.
for meeting with people. I think at one point you had done a fee where you would meet with people, just ask sort of basic questions for a few minutes for a small amount. And,
Yeah, sure.
whatever you can do is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I
And
definitely have, different, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have different offers these days that, sort of recognize the new world where you can get, some benefit from my services, but not with having me do all the work. So,
greatly appreciated. And just want to thank everyone for joining us. And attendees, please fill out the evaluation and CE credit form that will be sent out later. Watch your email and check the calendar for the 2026 schedule. And please register for next week's webinar if you have not already. And thank you for taking the time to join us today. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully there won't be too much snow.
Right. And Ken and Sarah, thanks for hosting me. It's
Thank you
always a
so
pleasure to work with
much.
you guys.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
Thank you.